Hello and welcome to the Talk Football podcast. My name is Tommy Hay and I'm joined by Kieran Quayle, the editor of Get Spanish Football News Online. How are you today, Kieran?
Great, Tommy. Yeah, can't complain here in Ireland. How are you keeping?
Not bad, very warm. It's 29 degrees at the moment. So yeah, I've got the windows shut for sound purposes, but it's pretty hot. I might have to go tap Zaf halfway through the pod.
Yeah, I won't be joining you for a few more weeks, but 29 is just beyond me at the minute. I'm suffering with 18. It's quite humid here, cloudy, but 18 in Ireland just seems like a lot more than it really is.
Yeah,
that clammy feel.
I know. It's the same. In Spain, after a while, after about 25 degrees, I just start to notice that it's hot, and I don't really distinguish between 29 degrees and 30 something degrees. I just start to suffer. Given
you're enjoying it though, as a Scotsman, you're enjoying it.
It's great. I've got my farmer's tan going. I might just like stop caring about my neighbours and just go tops off on the balcony as of today. I mean,
are you still closing your curtains for the podcast?
No, that would be. I think I would die. I'll be like, that would be too much.
That's good.
I'd be like
you're surviving.
It'll be like a microwave. Have you been watching much of the football? The Bundesliga started at the weekend there. Did you watch any of that?
Yeah, I feel like a lifetime Bundesliga fan now. I watched Borussia Schalke on Saturday, the 4-0. Felt strange, didn't it, with no fans?
Yeah, it was odd. It was weird being able to hear every ball being kicked, the players shouting and stuff like that. It was strange. It was really, really strange. But it was just good to see it back again. And Dortmund are great to watch. Thought Haaland was good. Torgan Hazard, obviously. Rafael Guerreiro as well. He's they've got a lot of kind of nippy wee players. Reminds me a little bit of like Napoli over the last few years, like the Napoli of Sarri, for example. Just like lots of really good nippy wee players that are good on the ball, and obviously Haaland's really got it. So yeah, they're good to watch.
His celebration though.
Oh, it was shocking.
So bad. Like he's brilliant. He's a quality footballer. But I was thinking, okay, these guys can't hug or high five or anything now because of the new rules. They're going to come up with some original celebration. The celebration was absolutely awful. But it was great to have it back. And then on Sunday, I watched Union Berlin and Bayern Munich.
Mm-hmm.
The Sunday kickoff. But that was good, yeah. Good to have it back, and hopefully the rest of the leagues can follow.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, the thing you're saying about celebration is, it reminded me of a thing. I was talking to my granddad the other week, and my granddad was at the 1960 European Cup final with Real Madrid and Eintracht Frankfurt with Di Stefano and Puskas and
7-3, wasn't it?
Yeah. And so he was at that game. It was at Hampden Park in Glasgow. And he said it was the first time he'd seen a player celebrating a goal. Because in Scotland, when they scored goals, they would just run away, shake their teammate's hand, and then kick off again. But in this game, the Spanish players and the Di Stefano being from Argentina and stuff, they went up to their fans and it was like celebrations and stuff. And my granddad was just disgusted at this behaviour. So I don't really know what he would think of Haaland's celebration, but I imagine he wouldn't be too pleased about it.
Yeah, it was real formal back in the day. They wore their hats and their big boots and they'd go over and shake hands really kind of seriously. It was different altogether.
I'm more of a fan of that. I'm way more old school, I think.
Gentlemanly approach.
Yeah. Do you have a favourite celebration of all time?
I don't mind the good old fashioned Alan Shearer. Just raise your hand and run around like a lunatic.
Yeah.
I'd have that over like a Griezmann glitter celebration.
Oh God, I know.
There's some real dodgy ones out there. Like that Haaland one was just, I'll not refer to it again. But yeah, something old school. Or Wayne Rooney just like sliding into the corner like with a real angry look in his face, like he's after like just breaking the ball, breaking the net.
Yeah,
and he's livid, even though like United were 3-0 up. He's livid, and the anger comes out in the celebration. I like that.
The angriest man in football. That's true.
Yeah.
Well, talking about Haaland, he's obviously been in the news the last few months, as any player doing well at another club is, because Madrid have been talking about signing him, or at least people have been mentioning that he's a possible signing for Madrid. La Cope reported earlier like over the weekend, I think, was it that Haaland's not in Madrid's plans, at least for the moment.
Yes, on Monday night, they said that it was basically not going to happen. They didn't give a particular date, but they just said not in Madrid's plans for now. So it's actually looking like 2022, not even 2021, because there's an agreement between Haaland's agent and Borussia Dortmund for the player to stay there until 2022. And like, he's still only 19, so it totally makes sense. But there's supposedly a clause there that would make him available to leave if the offer was for more than 120 million, which in today's market, it might not be because of all the devaluation because of coronavirus, and basically like a player was worth 20 million is now worth in and around 12. Those are like the figures that they're talking about, like a pretty big cut. But yeah, if his form continues and Madrid are able to cough up 120 million in a couple of years, well then that's what will allow him to leave Borussia Dortmund. But he's phenomenal. Like, watching him there the weekend, he's huge. He's absolutely everything. He just looks like such a nightmare to mark. And they're going to look for a Galactico signing because Benzema's in his 30s now. Jovic is 22, but they said that they want to basically give Jovic more time to spend 60 million on him, which is a lot of money. He's 22. He just hasn't really hit the heights that were expected of him. But in saying that, they're playing Benzema up front on his own, so Jovic could argue that he's hadn't had any chances really, and it's just hasn't worked out for him. So he's currently injured. He picked up an injury training at home. He fractured a bone in his right foot, so he'll be looking to recover as soon as possible. I think he's out for 6 weeks. But mightn't be the worst time to be out, considering the league won't be starting for another month. So yeah, it's looking like Haaland could eventually come, but for now there's nothing happening. I think he's better off staying in the Bundesliga. Like, he's Borussia Dortmund's main man, and he might, if he moves to Madrid this summer, he mightn't even get into the team, just the way Zidane plays, and Zidane loves Benzema.
Well, exactly. I mean, and I think that's been the problem for Jovic, hasn't it? That he hasn't really had the fair crack of the whip, because Madrid do play that system with just one striker, and Benzema's the established striker, and that's sort of it.
Yeah, Benzema still has a lot to offer, even though he's 33. Like, he's still world class. I don't think he's ever really gotten the credit that he deserves, but his statistics are unbelievable. Like, not just scoring goals, his assists. He's up there with Cristiano Ronaldo for all-time assists, maybe 138, and like, he's just unbelievable. But Haaland, that was Haaland's 10th Bundesliga goal for Dortmund, and it took him 541 minutes to do it, which is pretty impressive. But there's a Spanish player, Paco Alcácer, who was with Dortmund and now at Villarreal, and he did it for Borussia Dortmund in 281 minutes. So he's got the record, and he tweeted over the weekend saying, "Yeah, pretty good Haaland, but I've got the record." And a lot of Borussia Dortmund fans were saying that he never really got the chance. Like, they kind of sent him packing sooner than they should have, really. But yeah, it's pretty good going from Alcácer.
What a stat that is, by the way. That deserves a round of applause. Absolutely fantastic. Hazard's been in the news. It was confirmed that he's back fit now. He was back at training yesterday. Everybody with the exception of Jovic, Mariano and Asensio were at training yesterday. But if you look at the papers just across Spain, they seem to be placing a lot of importance on Hazard's return. La Vanguardia said Hazard excites Madrid fans with his return. Marca go even further. They say that Madrid have been given a subidon, a boost, by Hazard's return, and they go on to describe Hazard as Madrid's star player. Do you think it's fair to put so much emphasis on Hazard's return, given the fact that he's not really been there this season?
Well, he's only back from injury as well. Like, Real Madrid returned to group training on Monday, and so basically you're allowed to train up with up to 10 players now in your training sessions. And Hazard he took part in the individual training last week, But this week there was the group training, and he was part of that for the first time in 2 months because he got that bad injury against Levante back in February. And then in March, he went to Dallas and had a successful ankle surgery. So he's recovered and back doing some light training and ball work. And yeah, but his stats before getting injured, like, it's true. He hasn't really hit the ground running. Like, he scored 1 goal in 15 appearances between La Liga and the Champions League, and a couple of assists in there as well. So there is an expectation, and now that he's back fit and basically looking like a new signing again, he has another chance to get going again. This is kind of almost like a second season. So I'm sure he's dying to get back to it. And obviously Real Madrid fans will have that big demand because he is that, like, Galactico kind of player, and he's 29, so like he's in his prime. He has to do it now. So it'll be, like, there's 11 games to go in the league, and it'll be another chance for him to really go and, like, try and push for the league if he gets back fit. Like, he has a month now. They're talking about the 12th of June for a restart, so like he has a few weeks to get fitness under his belt and to get back playing with the ball. He said he loves Zidane's training sessions because it's all ball orientated. Like, when he was with Chelsea, he was there with Conte and Sarri, like Italian managers, and he just said it wasn't as pleasant. So you're with Zidane, you've got the ball at your feet for most of the sessions. And he said that last week was a bit strange because they were all on their own and there was no real contact, but now they're back in the larger groups, which is good news for Spanish football, the fact that all the clubs have returned to group training. Something positive.
Yeah, he did come in for a bit of criticism at the beginning of the season because by his own admission, he was overweight when he arrived. And he got a lot of, stick from that. I think obviously Real Madrid fans are very demanding, as we know. And the last thing you want from a player when he turns up is to be overweight, because it suggests that he's not really taking the challenge seriously. But he admitted that himself, didn't he?
Yeah, he said he gained 5 kilos over the summer. He said, I was on vacation and that was it. I was on vacation. But imagine you're Real Madrid's brand new signing and you're away on holidays and you're like, nah, I'll not go for a jog this morning. Fancy a few pina coladas. And then Florentino Perez said, he is overweight. I'm a little bit surprised. So the club admitted it, and then Hazard said that he lost it in 10 days. So the good heat there that you're experiencing in Madrid came in handy for him compared to life in London, because he did it before in the 2015-2016 season. He was also overweight after a summer when he was a Chelsea player. So he is keen on doing it. And it was funny because when after his ankle surgery, that was just before the lockdown started in Spain. So he came out then after a few weeks and he was speaking to some media in Belgium, and he basically said that it's really hard for me to stay away from the buns.
Good chocolates there.
This
good
pretty much broke the internet because nobody had any football to talk about, and Hazard you could just picture Hazard in his living room like, no, I can't go to the kitchen. I've done this before. Like, I can't even move. I can't run or anything. So if I start eating the buns now. So he's managed to. He looks very trim, actually. I saw pictures of him yesterday. He looks trim. He looks in shape. And there was also a nice picture of him and Zidane, both of them wearing their masks last week when they went for their COVID tests. And it was basically like they were keeping their distance and they're obviously having a conversation. But he did look lean. So fair play to him. He stayed away from the buns.
It's fundamental to stay away from the buns. Absolutely fundamental. It's a bit of a tradition of arriving at, great players arriving at Madrid overweight. Puskas was overweight when he arrived at the club as well, but like massively overweight. Yeah, he was like, seriously.
And they had him wear like jumpers. He was running around the hills of Madrid in jumpers to lose weight. Imagine you doing that to Puskas, like one of the best players of all time.
Yeah, I know, but he obviously completely let himself go when he was away. And he had that kind of build. He was one of the heavier set players. Hazard, he's just a kind of small, sort of stocky guy. So he's always going to be a bit more. I think we were talking about Luis Suarez the other week as well. He's one of these guys that he's always going to be slightly on that side of putting on a bit of weight if he's not active. So, you just got to keep on top of it. And as you say, stay away from the buns.
Yeah, that's it. And he's on the list of players who have played games this season. He's 15th out of 25 squad players for Real Madrid. Hazard, that is. So he's played 31% of games. So he hasn't had much game time due to injury. So I think there's probably a little bit of pressure there to perform. And, you know, he wasn't good before the injury, but hopefully he picks it up because he's a fabulous player. Like some of the goals he scored for Chelsea over the years, he's so good to watch. So it'd be good for La Liga, not just Real Madrid, but for La Liga in general, to have a player of his stature playing his best football.
Yeah, and regularly, absolutely. Okay, we were talking last week about the possibility of Pjanic coming to Barcelona from Juventus. Have we received any update on this, or any kind of movement on this?
Yeah, over the weekend there was a little bit of mad talk going on. Kind of strange swap deal involving Juventus players and Semedo, Nélson Semedo. So it was coming out in the different outlets that Semedo would be going. It was particularly Sport, the Catalan newspaper. They were saying that Semedo would be involved in a deal with Pjanic and the Scilio, the right back for Juventus, and €25 million. So it looked too much in Barca's favour. It looked like a dream deal because you'd have a right back replacement coming in straight like for like swap with Semedo, and then Pjanic is 30 but very, very good, and then 25 million, and we all know that Barca need to balance the books. So they're trying to use Semedo in these deals because they don't have the money to buy all the players that they want, and they're linking him with everybody. He was linked with Man City as well. João Cancelo, who hasn't really made it happen in the Premier League, he's been also linked in a swap deal with Semedo to go and play right back for Barca. So there's been a little bit of talk, but they're still saying that Pjanic is the man that they want, and they'll do their best to get him over the line. But it's looking like it's going to involve some swap deals. But the one that was said over the weekend, it looks too good to be true for Barca. And then a couple of well-respected journalists, Alfredo Martinez in Catalonia, said that no, it's not going to happen. There's no agreement in place there. So that was quickly dismissed, and it just didn't look right. But yeah, Pjanic is still the man that they want alongside Lautaro Martinez, and Neymar's on that list as well. But they're not going to get them all this summer because it's not going to happen. It's going to be more loan deals. And if they do get anybody, they're talking about keeping their cash for Lautaro. They're willing to pay 60-70 million euro. Supposedly Inter are still looking for more. But yeah, it's time will tell. But Pjanic would be a good player.
I think that Semedo's a funny one because I think that the general feeling with him is that he's come in and done a job for Barcelona, and that right back position's been pretty problematic more or less since Dani Alves left. And before Alves left, they'd signed Alex Vidal from Sevilla. That was 18 million they paid for him back in 2015. And the idea was that he would come in and replace Alves when he left. And he didn't really fit into the Enrique system. So Sergio Roberto was kind of retrained as a right back, and that's where he's been playing for the last little while. He's not a right back though; he's a centre midfielder. And Barca didn't really have a right back. That's why they signed Semedo. And I think that the general feeling is that he's come in and done an all right job, but he's never really been able to hold down a starting place in that team. He's always alternated with Roberto in the right back position. And you think that Barca would value having an out and out right back in that position, but it seems to be that every time there's like a talk of a deal, he's always been used as some kind of bargaining chip.
Yeah, and like his stats this season are pretty solid. Like he is their first choice right back, but he just hasn't made a huge impression on a lot of people, and he's been used, as you said, as a bargaining chip now because they don't have the funds to bring in players, and they're going to be looking at players who aren't untouchable to be involved in certain deals. So they said that it's basically Messi, Frankie de Jong and Ter Stegen. They're the three untouchables, and then anybody else can be part of the deal. I imagine Piqué is probably on that list as well of untouchables. But Sergio Roberto's he's a very, very good player. He's solid. He's consistent. Technically very, very, very good. But Semedo's more of a marauding right back. Like he's a modern day right back, gets forward a lot, links up the play, and he's quite exciting. but he's 26 and probably still valued quite highly. So for some reason, they're trying to get him in there as part of these deals. But yeah, it's very, very difficult to replace Dani Alves. Like, he was just unbelievable. And you'll do well to ever replace him. But they're also looking at Serginho Dest, who's actually a Dutch-born American right back. Only 19. He's currently playing for Ajax, and Bayern Munich are basically leading the pack there. Like, they've got a firm interest in him, and that looks like the ideal destination for him. But Barca have inquired about the player, according to a Dutch journalist who's basically working closely with Ajax over the years, and he's quite respected. So it looks like Bayern are there, but yeah, they're trying to sort out the right back place, position even, and with Semedo going, then they're probably going to revert to Sergio Roberto if Semedo does go and is involved in a transfer deal.
Yeah, I think these things have changed over time, because Semedo was brought in largely so that Roberto could go back to that normal position of playing at centre midfield, and that would happen. You know, we've seen that happen over the last year or two. That Semedo starts the game at right back, and Roberto would move into the centre midfield position. The thing I noticed earlier on this season, and a lot of people commented on it, was that Roberto seems to look less and less comfortable in the centre midfield position. One case in point would have been the game at the beginning of last season against Celta Vigo. It was one of it was after they'd sacked Escribá. I think it was the first game with the new manager, and
the 4-1, the Barca one.
Yeah, but it was
the Messi free kicks.
Yeah, but it wasn't. It was thanks to Messi that they won. They really struggled in that game, and part of the reason
Celta looked quite good. Yeah.
Well, they looked good, but they just knew exactly how to play Barca, and they put Roberto under a lot of pressure, and he didn't look comfortable receiving the ball with his back to the play. You know, it's almost if he's sort of become a right back. He's sort of, you know, he looks more comfortable at the right back position now more than in centre midfield, and I think players know how to get at him of other teams. You know,
yeah,
so
and he's experienced. If they don't bring somebody in, like, they do have him there. He is an experienced player, and as you said, he's almost converted to a right back now.
I think he's more of a right back than a centre midfielder now. Just personally, from what I've seen over the last, particularly the last season. So I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's what they're thinking, and it would make sense about why they're less bothered about getting rid of their only out and out right back. Really, you know, in Semedo, you know, it would make a bit more sense if you assume that their attitude now is that Roberto is one more right back as opposed to a centre midfielder that just can fill in at right back, you know?
Yeah, and they have numbers in there ahead of Sergio Roberto as starting midfielders. Like, you've Busquets, De Jong, Artur Melo, Arturo Vidal, Rakitic. There are players in there that would be in the starting 11 ahead of Sergio Roberto as natural centre midfielders. So maybe he will just become their full-time right back if Semedo leaves.
Maybe. Let's talk about ERTEs. So ERTEs are these temporary layoff schemes, that exist in Spain. A lot of companies have applied for them because of the coronavirus, and football clubs included. Barcelona have done it. Most recent news is that Rayo Vallecano and Malaga have also they're also going to be cutting staff and things like that, and massive pay cuts for people. Paco Gémez, the Rayo Vallecano manager, is not happy about this situation.
No, the players didn't turn up for training on Monday. They're actually only going back this morning. So it's basically a tough time at Rayo. Players who don't earn a lot of money in the second division in Spain aren't receiving wages. Some of them are receiving maybe 30%. Some of them aren't receiving any money at all. And they're actually breaking the rules, because if you're on an ERTE, you're basically supposed to get aid from the government, social benefits, and you're not allowed to work. So their argument is, well, why do we go back to work if we're not getting paid and we're breaking the law? We're not supposed to be at work anyway, but we don't want to work because we're not getting paid and we're professional footballers. And the club's after selling a couple of big players, and there's 20 million there in the bank, and this just shouldn't be allowed to happen. So there's been a lot of tension there for a couple of years. Like, Paco Gémez, the head coach, doesn't talk to the owner, Martin Presa, and it's basically just it's it's gone pretty far now, and there's only contact with Paco Gemes and the sporting director, who used to be a goalkeeper at Rayo. So they're basically the only two people that are talking on the level of management. So Paco's obviously backing his players. He's always done that, and he said that they're not going to go to training, and they need to get paid. But it looks like it's been resolved now, and they're back in training. So we'll see what happens there. But his argument was that you're selling players, there's 20 million euro in the bank. Like the least you can do is pay us. And Jaime said that I want the players who are on the lowest salaries to be looked after. I can even help them myself as coach. I can help people out. So he actually was there willing to give up his own salary. And he said, okay, cut the players on higher salaries, but those guys on €1,500, 2,000 a month, they need to be sorted. Like we can't leave them with uncertain financial stability. So it was just a really tough time with the club, and the fans don't like Pressa at all. Like there was war at the start of the season. Like he increased the ticket prices, even though they were in Segunda División, and just not a good time. Not really healthy there at the club. And Pressa doesn't want to sell. The fans are always protesting. It's a great atmosphere when you go down there.
Yeah,
I love going to Vallecas, but off the field it's just a mess now at the moment with the lack of communication going on. And Pressa's father recently died, so he said that his doctor actually said on Spanish radio recently that he's depressed. He's basically going to his father's grave every day and regrets the death of his father, that he didn't help him. I'm not actually sure what his father died of, but the last thing on Pressa's mind now is Rayo Vallecano, naturally enough. But it doesn't help the fact that he's not speaking to the manager or the players, and there's an ERTE there that nobody really understands, and nobody knows what's going on, if they're going to be able to pay the rent at the end of the month. So they did return to training at 8:30 this morning, but I wouldn't say the mood in the camp is too good.
No, Gemed actually said on the radio, I was listening to an interview with him, I think it was 2 nights ago, and he said that the last time he spoke to the president was when he found out about his dad. That was the last time the two of them spoke. So obviously it's been a while that they've had a complicated relationship, but they have spoken about that. So there's obviously, it's not totally beyond reach, the situation. But it doesn't look good. I think he's the kind of guy, if you're a Vallecano fan, he's the kind of guy you would want in charge, because he's taking a stance on this, and you know what the kind of fans are like. Yeah,
he speaks out. Like recently, he said a club that has 19 million euro in earnings has to have the balls to pay its employees, and you have to look after your employees. They're number one. Mm-hmm. Those players are number one, and if football's going to resume in June, like, you want them going in, getting paid. It also happened at Elche. Elche decided to not train last week in protest over club's wages as well. And then we've seen it at Malaga, huge club, yesterday.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I know. Malaga, another big club that have fallen away, in recent years, and this situation really hasn't helped them. So, yeah, it's all a bit chaotic, especially when you get down the leagues and you see how this kind of stuff can affect the staff and even the players. So it'll be interesting to see how that situation develops.
It's a real fine line. Like in Spanish football, you play in the second division, but you're not earning a lot of money. There's not a lot of money in that league. And once something like this happens, gate receipts are gone. Like, a lot of these clubs are surviving on their gate receipts. So once that goes, you're in trouble. And if football is going to be played behind closed doors now for the foreseeable future, like, there's no way some clubs are going to be able to survive. And Malaga are going to be like, they're in a difficult situation, because there's talk of termination of contracts, not just an ERTE. They're calling it an ERE, so they're taking it to temporary. This is full time. This is going to be termination of contracts, suspension of contracts across the board. Like, 40 staff are going to be affected, but the first team, I suppose, will be looked after, and the coaches as well. But yeah, staff across the board are basically going to lose their jobs in the coming weeks. And this is a huge club that was in the Champions League recently. Like, a lot of people will remember that team with Manuel Pellegrini. So
Dortmund knocked them out the Champions League, I remember.
Sorry?
Remember Dortmund knocked them out the Champions League? It was a big last minute goal and stuff, and it was a bit sad for them, really.
big club, fabulous stadium down there on the south coast, and yeah, just hopefully like things turn around. But there's been a lot of mismanagement going on behind the scenes there as well. Like once you get into that ownership as well, and there's been a lot of criticism towards their owner, who basically has them in Segunda and just isn't managing the place properly. So yeah, it's not looking good for them.
Nope. Bit of football history. We were talking before the show. It's been how long? It was 20 years, no, since Depor won the league.
Yeah, 20 years ago yesterday, their first and only ever La Liga title.
It's amazing. Yeah, it's amazing that happened now, because they're obviously, I mean, they started off this season looking really, really terrible, like they were going to go down. They pulled it back with a pretty amazing comeback, but they're nowhere near where they used to be. I remember when I started watching Spanish football, just, they had so many good players. Roy Mackay, Djukic, Bebeto,
Valeron.
Yep. Oh, so many good teams.
Some brilliant players. I remember them playing AC Milan in the Champions League, and they lost 4-1 in the first leg and ended up winning 5-4. And it was just, everything was going right for them. They had Brazilian players. They had Roy Mackay, Diego Tristan. Like, it was just a fantastic team. And I actually lived in Coruña for a couple of months in the summer of 2015. And the Real Thor, it's probably my favorite stadium in Spain. It's on the beach. Yeah. Basically, you're walking along the beach. The atmosphere is building up, and then you go into the stadium. And the first game I saw was actually a 0-0 draw against Real Sociedad. And who was in charge of Real Sociedad? David Moyes.
David Moyes.
David Moyes.
What a man.
He got a 0-0 draw. It was a terrible game, but then you leave the stadium and you're on the beach again, so it's happy days. But just a class place, lovely city, and they live for their football up there. But they're in Segunda, and a lot of that is like Malaga and Rayo. It was mismanagement over the years. They spent millions on getting players in, and then basically went broke. But still a huge club, like at 20,000 at their second division games. And yeah, on that day 20 years ago, goals from was it Roy Mackay?
Yep, Roy Mackay
scored a couple of goals, and Donato, scored a couple of goals to give them that La Liga win. So
and he'd been in, Donato had been in that team that should have won the league in 94 with Bebeto and Djukic, and
with the missed penalty.
Well, this is the thing. I was reading recently about the Cruyff dream team of Barcelona, and they were pretty lucky. A good few times. Real Madrid threw it away twice in the last day of the season against Tenerife, both times.
And Barca just nicked them.
Yeah, Barca just nicked them too. And then obviously the famous Depor game where they missed they get a penalty in the 89th minute. Bebeto, who's supposed to take the penalty, just gets nervous and decides not to take it. So Djukic had to come and step up, and the rest is history. Missing it against Valencia, Barca won another title. So the dream team obviously they were great. There's no disputing that they were a wonderful team, but they did get quite lucky on a number of occasions. And when
sorry, go on.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, that when Depor did eventually win the league, they tried their best to lose it as well. They just in the run in the last few games that they really like could have lost it.
Because it came down to the final day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it came down to the final day.
In the end, will we ever see another provincial club win La Liga?
It's a tough one. I don't see Levante doing it anytime soon.
No,
but you never know. The thing is, if players were able to hang on to people, I mean, like, you look at Sociedad just now. That's a really, like, young team. Lots of really talented players. If they could stay together for a few years and just not have to worry about players leaving, they could mature into. I think they could mature into a title-winning squad, 100%.
Yeah.
The only thing that's stopping them, actually winning the league is that they seem to throw away stupid points when they really shouldn't, and that perhaps comes down to a lack of maturity in the squad. But if they were able to hold together for a while and win those games, they could win.
Yeah, the sad reality is you look at that Real Sociedad team there, play fantastic football. They're easy on the eye, and they're all young players that play in a really good system that's been quite successful. It's gotten them to the Copa del Rey final and quite high placed in the league. So the sad thing is that that's only going to last for a couple of years, because Odegaard will go back to Real Madrid. Oyarzabal will probably get a move somewhere else. There's even talk of Isak, the big striker. He'll probably go somewhere else. William Jose. So these teams, these really successful teams, the best players just get snapped up. A lot of the clubs rely on the money. You look at the case of Athletic Club, Real Sociedad's neighbours in the Basque Country. They don't sign players from outside the region. They're a very, very unique case, and they're doing it 100 years. So it shows like the clubs could function without the current transfer system. I know like Bilbao have huge revenue, like they're really, really stable financially, because they sell players. Like the likes of Laporte went to Man City, so they're able to sell, but they're not buying. They're producing homegrown players year in, year out. So if you had something like that, I know it's totally unrealistic in today's modern game, but it just shows like how these clubs can operate. Like they can remain stable, they can produce players. Like that's not a big region. Like the Basque Country isn't a big region, but they're able to produce those players because they have the system in place. So it's a romantic story, and it's not going to work nowadays. But it's just, you see the likes of that Depor thing, and like the amount of people tweeting about it yesterday, because nowadays 20 years on, you look at that and you're like, that was huge. Like the fact that they were able to topple Real Madrid and Barcelona. You look at those two clubs now, Atletico Madrid are just in behind them in third place in the standings, but then you have clubs like Sevilla, Valencia. They've always been thereabouts. Like that Valencia period, when they won the league in 2002 and 2004, they were dominant with Rafa Benitez. Like you look at that, and I still watch videos of that because it's just a time where it was something different. It was a new club. It was a provincial club with real fans that only live for that team, because a lot of cities around Spain, they'll support the local team. They'll support, I don't know, maybe
Cadiz
Granada
or something,
and Real Madrid. Yeah, and the other team will be Real Madrid. But the likes of Coruña, Valencia, those places won league titles in the last 20 years, and those places are just Depor fans, and they're just Valencia fans. So there are some really big clubs in Spain that have been successful, but whether they'll be able to do it again remains to be seen. But hopefully.
Yeah, maybe the missing ingredient we've already covered. Maybe the missing ingredient for Sociedad would be the return of David Moyes. He went to my school. Did I ever tell you that?
You did, yeah. You mentioned that in a previous podcast.
Oh, I'm very proud of it. Yeah, he went to our school, and but yeah, we bit before me. But he was class, and he really loved it up there.
He didn't, yeah, but there was a lot of criticism around like his tactics and everything. Some of the players said he hadn't a clue. Like he just wasn't ready for La Liga. Like he's more traditional, old school. Was able to set up Everton in that way, but whatever instructions, maybe it was the lack of Spanish, but whatever instructions came across, a couple of senior players came out and said after that man didn't have a clue about tactics.
Yeah, that's a difficult one. Obviously,
it just didn't work. A lot of factors. Like he was living out of a hotel, didn't speak the language. Like he's quite respected, but I think after losing the United job, like it was just day and night, wasn't it? You land the United job, you're the best manager in the world. All of a sudden, because Alex Ferguson has hyped you up to get this role, and you've got all the traits of Alex Ferguson, but you've never won anything. And then you're 9 months later, you're gone, and you're a nobody. So
that was the thing. It was that job at such a difficult time.
Recency bias.
Yeah.
A lot of players would have said, "Look at him, he's a failure. Like, what's he going to do at Real Sociedad?" So a lot of recency bias would have come into it, probably.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, very interesting stuff. Well, is there anything else you want to talk about?
No, I think that's it. We've discussed Haaland's dodgy celebration, so I'm happy enough.
Yeah. I think we'll leave it at that. But don't focus on the negative. There's been a lot of positive news as well, aside from Haaland's dodgy celebration. So, okay.
One last thing, Tommy. Last week we were talking about the dates. There's been no real update on when football is going to resume. They're still looking at like the 12th of June or 19th of June, around that time. So yeah, hopefully it's within the next month.
What did you bet for again? Did you say the 19th? And I said the 18th.
I went for the 12th and you went for the 19th.
Yeah.
So I've just been slightly more ambitious. But you're in Madrid. You're getting the feel for the place. You're the favourite now.
Yeah, I'm definitely feeling the heat in here with the windows open. So I think we'll end it there. I'll open my windows and we'll see each other again next week. Thank you for joining us. Adios.
Hasta luego.